Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about the different chess game types, and that is a categorization for chess openings. And the reason that is important is because there are so many chess openings. So for example, if you want to count them, if say we have 5 options in each move and each opening is around 10 moves, that gives 20 moves of 5 options each, and that gives an unfathomable number. So one classical way of categorizing the different chess openings is by the chess game types. And there are 4 of them. One is open games, one is semi-open, and closed, and flank. In this video, we'll go over the main openings in each of the game types. Open games are the games that start with e4 and black responds with e5. This is called open because in average it gives more agility and more options to the pieces. Semi-open games are the games that start with e4 and are followed by any move other than e5. So for example, c5 here, or it could be e6. And then closed games are the games that white starts with d4. And the game could continue with any response. As soon as white plays d4, it is a closed game type. Flank openings or flank games are the games that start with any move that doesn't occupy one of the 4 central squares. Okay, so now we're going to go over the main openings of each game type, starting with the open games. So it goes as e4, e5. So far we have an open game. And now the most classical way of starting a chess game is with knight f3 and knight c6, and then followed by bishop b5. And up to this point we call this opening a Ruy Lopez, or a Spanish game. There are 2 main ways that this game can continue. One is the open Ruy Lopez, which starts with a6, and I'll just show you how one example of the continuation could be. So this is an example of an open Ruy Lopez. Another way that this game could go is called the Berlin defense, and Berlin goes as follows. So up to bishop b5 we have a Ruy Lopez, but instead of going black a6, black goes with knight f6, and now we can have up to this point is a Berlin defense, and a very common variation of that is goes as this. In this move, white plays d4. This is a very common variation of the Berlin. Alright, so next we have the Giuoco piano, or the Italian game, which goes e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, knight c6, I'm sorry, bishop c4, and bishop c5. This is called a Giuoco piano. One common variation of this starts with b4, which if white plays b4 at move 4, this game would be called an Evans Gambit. Another variation is called the 2-knight defense. If in response to move 3, black plays knight f6. This is called as the 2-knight defense. A common variation can go as this. If white plays knight g5, black's only response is to play d5. White captures, and the game continues as something like this. And here bishop d3 or bishop e2. All right. Next is this Scotch game. So far an open game. And in move 3, white plays d4. And up to the game can continue like this. But up to this move, d4, it's called a Scotch. Alright, next we have the Petroff's defense, which goes as e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. Game is King's Gambit, which e4, e5, then f4. Up to this point, this game is called the King's Gambit. Another type is e4, e5, and then white goes d4. Black captures and white plays c3. Up to this point, this game is called a Danish Gambit. White gives up a pawn instead of recapturing that on d4 for faster development. Last type of the open games that I wanted to cover is called the Vienna. Goes as e4, e5, as we are still in the open games. And now instead of playing the king's knight, white plays the queen's knight to c3, knight f6, and white plays bishop c4. Up to this point, this is called a Vienna game. Next type of games are the semi-open games, which go with e4 and any response other than e5. A very common type of semi-open games are the Sicilian defense, which goes as e4 and c5. It has multiple main variations, three of which that I'm going to quickly cover are the Najdorf and the Dragon and the Alekhine. So Najdorf goes as this. I notice that on move 4, black puts pressure on the e4 pawn and white defends that. And here, black plays a6, and that is Najdorf. If on move 5, black plays g6, this would be Dragon. Okay. Another variation of Sicilian is that on move 2, white plays c3. A common continuation is for black to immediately play d5 because white cannot play the move knight c3 and move the queen, black's queen. Another common type of the semi-open games is the French defense, and it goes as e4, e6, and now that is French, e4, e6. A very common type of French is the advanced variation, which goes as d5, and white pushes the pawn, and this is the advanced variation. A very common strategy here for black is to put pressure on the base of the chain, and the game can continue with black putting more pressure on the d4. So because of that pressure, another common type of the French defense is not to push the pawn and to defend it with the knight c3 move. This is known as the Winover variation of French. Black continues to put pressure on the e4 pawn indirectly, and the game continues as this. This is a very common type of the French Winover variation. Another type of semi-open games are the Caro-Kann, which goes as e4 and then c6, which usually continue with the moves d4 and d5. But up to the move 1 of black, e6 is known as Caro-Kann. Another type of semi-open games are the Alekhine. So on move 1, black responds with knight f6. A common response here is a continuation is this. Another type of semi-open game is to respond by d6, and this is known as the Pirc defense. This is the last semi-open game I wanted to cover. Alright, next are the closed games, which start with d4. Very common response to d4 is d5, and then white continues with c4, which is the Queen's Gambit. And depending on this response, if black takes, that would be Queen's Gambit accepted. If black plays e6, that would be declined. If black plays c6, that would be the Slav defense. There are a lot of variations in this line in Queen's Gambit. I will be covering those in the future videos. Another very common response to d4 is knight f6. And here I'm going for King's Indian defense. Okay, so this is King's Indian defense. Now on move 3, if black instead of bishop g7 plays d5, this would be this is Grunfeld, and the game continues like this. The idea of this game being putting pressure on d4. This is the Grunfeld. Now on move 2, if black plays e6, this could cause two main variations. One is the Nimzo Indian defense, which goes as knight c3 and bishop b4. This is Nimzo Indian defense. If instead of bringing the queenside knight, white plays knight f3, black can respond with b6 to put the fianchetto the light square bishop and put pressure on the light squares. This is considered the Queen's Indian defense. Now on move 3, if black plays with f5, this is Dutch. So close games to cover is d4, knight f6, we're going for Benoni, c4, c5, d5, and e6. This is known as Benoni. Notice that pushing the pawn is not a good move because black can respond by knight e4 and grab the d6 pawn. This is known as Benoni. Alright, so next type of game is, the last type is flanked, which is games that open with any move but d4 and e4. One common type is Reti, goes as knight f3, d5 and c4. This is known as Reti, the Reti opening. Another type of the flank openings, which is common, is starting with c4. This is known as the English game. Just by the first move of white, the opening is defined as the English opening. And a common way of continuing is e5, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6. Alright, so with that, we covered all 4 game types in chess: open, semi-open, closed, and flank. And hopefully this would give you some framework to approach the chess openings. There are so many of them. And also, having heard the main types of opening that we covered today, hopefully would make you enjoy playing chess or watching chess a little bit more. Thank you for watching the video, and until next video, take care, bye.